Good evening. I call this workshop to order. Let's do a roll call of those participating by teleconference. I will call the names of the members, and if you are on the conference call, please signify by stating present. Vice Mayor Brown? Alderman Coates? Alderman Jones?
Present.
Alderman No?
Present.
We have 3 present. Just a few housekeeping issues before we continue. We need to document that we are conducting this workshop by electronic means due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and it is necessary to protect the public health and safety and welfare of the citizens, city employees, and elected officials from possible exposure to this virus. The meeting was advertised in the Murfreesboro Post on Tuesday, August 11th, 2020. The agenda was sent to the board members on August 7th, 2020. Workshop packets were distributed electronically to the board members earlier today. This workshop is being live streamed on Laverne Channel 3 and the city's YouTube channel. The video will be posted on YouTube after the conclusion of the workshop. I would ask all of the board members to be courteous and not interrupt others when they are speaking. If you need to speak, please ask to be recognized by me. Please mute your phone if you are not speaking. Please silence your cell phones and any other electronic devices to eliminate as much background noise as possible. That being said, are there any questions from the board members before we proceed? Seeing none, the first order, or the only order of business, is a discussion impact fee study by James Duncan and Associates Incorporated. Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
You may proceed with your presentation.
I'm up. Okay. Yeah, this is Clancy Mullen with Duncan Associates, doing business as name, in Austin, Texas. Sorry I can't be with you today, but it's good to be with you at least remotely. I want to start off with the first slide, the presentation summary. So this just kind of gives you the overview of the presentation. So I want to talk about, the basics of impact fees, what makes them kind of different from other kinds of fees, an overview of the project. Then I want to talk about non-utility fees, which are roads, parks, fire, and police. So these are everything but water and wastewater, which is for reasons that should become clear later that are useful to treat separately. And for the non-utility fees, we're going to talk about what the current fees are, what the land use categories in the fee schedule are, the updated fees, and show you a regional comparison with some of your neighboring cities. For utility fees, we'll talk about the current fees, the updated fees, and some considerations as you deliberate on what to do about your utility fees. And then talk about some implementation options. All right, let's go to the next slide. The basics of impact fees, kind of give you a sense of what an impact fee is. It's first of all a charge that's assessed only on new development, so this is not a recurring, monthly charge like a utility bill. Or annual tax, property taxes, or whatever. It's a one-time upfront charge, and it's only assessed on new development or new utility customers. And second, it's designed to cover part of the cost to maintain the existing level of service. And I don't know if that, for a shared set of facilities. So this is not for things like the residential street in your neighborhood that somebody probably paid for. It was priced into the cost of the home, to the sales price of the home. But this is for your impact on a broader set of facilities that's shared by everybody in the community. So that would be the major roads, the collectors, the arterials, the public parks that are available to everybody, and fire and police protection, which is provided for everybody in the community. And it's calculated in compliance with the law. So there are special rules that apply to impact fees to distinguish them from some kind of arbitrary tax or unauthorized fee. Of course, in your case, you have specific authorization from the legislature to impose impact fees. But impact fees were originally designed in places where it wasn't clear if this is, a regulatory fee that's something that a community can charge to get growth to pay for the new capital improvements that are needed to accommodate the impacts of that growth. These legal requirements are basically, one, to be proportionate to the impact of the development. So it's not somehow arbitrary. It's, you have an impact, here's the cost for that impact. It addresses the need created by the development, and it's used to benefit the development. So you're not, the need that's created is the need to expand the capacity of your capital facilities. And you don't spend the money to operations and maintenance or anything like that. What an impact fee is it's not a tax whose revenues can be spent on any type of facility or operations and maintenance. So it's also not a negotiated developer exaction. It's typically done for large projects that have, really significant impacts. It's more for, it's a broad-based fee that's designed to be fairer, that, all new development pays its share. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Just kind of a quick overview of the project. Basis of the current fees. The road fees are based on a 1998 study that we did, and park fees as well. They were both originally adopted at 50%, and the retail category land uses were subsequently reduced to 20% of that 22-year-old study calculation. Police fees were based on a newer study that was done in 2004 that we also did for Vergne. And fire fees we calculated, but at the time we did that 2004 study, the city was not providing its own, not have its own fire rescue department, was contracting it out. And I think that's probably the reason that it was not adopted. And the water and wastewater privilege fees have not changed since we did that 1998 study. They're the same that they were at that time. So I don't know when they originally came into being, but those are at least 22 years old as well. So in this update, in this study, we're going to basically calculate impact fees, calculate fees according to impact fee principles for all of your existing fees, both the non-utility fees and the water and wastewater fees as well. And we're also going to calculate potential fire impact fees that you could adopt. Okay, let's go to the next slide. The next slide just shows the non-utility fees. This is also table 1 in the page 3 of the study. So you can see you've got your land use categories down in the first column, and you've got the unit type. So, it's either a dwelling or a mobile home park site or a hotel room, or else 1,000 square feet of other types of non-residential. And then you have your 3 fee types. You've got roads, parks, and police. And the final column totals them up. And as you can see, if you can read that, I don't know how legible that is there, but it's $1,307 for a single-family detached unit. And you'll also notice there's a lot of retail categories between that second and third horizontal line. And that's what I'd like to talk about next, because we did not keep this with these land use categories. We're changing them in this update. Okay. So let's go to the next slide, the changes in the land use categories. And that just highlights the fact that all those retail categories are lumped into a retail commercial category. So, all those uses would be charged the same rate. So you're not distinguishing between, is it a convenience store? Is it a restaurant? If so, is it a fast food restaurant or not? Is it a movie theater? It's commercial. It's not industrial, it's not office, it's not institutional. We have specialized institutional categories further down. We're also proposing consolidating office general and office medical into a single office institutional category. And that office institutional category would cover, in addition to any type of office building, it would also cover institutional uses that are not specifically called out in the fee schedule. So you can see below that we've got hospital, nursing home, church, daycare center, elementary, secondary school. If it's not one of those, then it would just fall in the office category, if it's not a retail commercial use. And then you have your 3 industrial categories, which we're also not proposing any changes to. So it's kind of necessary to talk about that. And we can talk about the reasons for consolidating and the pros and cons after we get through with this presentation. I don't want to belabor that right now. This isn't a long presentation, but I don't want to get too bogged down right there. Let's go to the next slide. The updated non-utility impact fees. So this summarizes the updated fees, and you can see there's quite a few. There's fewer uses, land use types listed there because we've consolidated all those retail commercial categories. And this, of course, this schedule adds fire as well to roads, parks, and police. And you'll notice the total fee, total updated fee, if you adopted them at 100%, be about $6,700 for a single-family unit, just shy of that. So obviously a significant increase from the $1,300 you're charging now. But we'll get to the implementation options in terms of you don't have to charge the full amount of this. These are the most you can charge. Let's go to the next slide and look at a comparison with some nearby cities. So it's basically comparing you to Smyrna, Nolensville, Brentwood, and Franklin. So Smyrna is also in Rutherford County like you guys are, and Nolensville, Brentwood, and Franklin are in Williamson County. And those Williamson County jurisdictions only have road fees. Those three they don't have parks, fire, police. And their road fees, as you'll see, are which is the gray, and a grayish bar. That's about the same as what the updated fee for Vergne is. That's what they're charging now. But they're not charging the other fees. On the other hand, they are charging a new development in those cities also pays a school impact fee, the Williamson County school impact fee, which depends on size, but starts out at over $3,000, plus city and county adequate facilities taxes. And you guys don't have any of those. So that just gives you kind of an idea. Smyrna has not updated their fees since almost as long as you guys haven't. We did that study back in 1999, and they have not looked at it since. So they charge obviously much lower fees than you would be charging if you come anywhere close to 100%. Let's go to the next one. Now we're talking about the utility privilege fees, the water and wastewater privilege fees. This just shows you, so, unlike with the other impact fees, these utility fees are based on the size of the water meter, which is typical for utility fees. And you can see that the wastewater fee is about triple what the water fee is. And in the 1998 study, we're showing that here just to emphasize that the fees, that your current privilege fees are not based on the capacity of the water meter, which is what we did in 1998 in that study and what we're proposing in this study as well. So you can see like the smallest meter size, the 5/8 by 3/4 inch, is up 60%. The 10-inch meter is up almost 1,500%. So quite a difference if you base the fees on meter size. So I don't know what the current fees are based on. I don't know if the city actually knows. I think I had asked in the original study and was told we don't really know in that 1998 study. I think they were kind of old at that time. But clearly they're not based on meter capacity. And so those last two columns are just to kind of show how that's the case. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Shows the updated utility fees. And really we're showing current, so we're showing water in the first three, so we're showing current, updated, and percent increase, and then wastewater in the last three columns. You can see the water fees are going up quite a bit if they were to be based on meter size or meter capacity. Whereas wastewater fees are not going up near as much. In fact, for a single family unit would go actually down almost 40%. I'm not sure exactly why this is the case. I mean, it's hard to say because we don't really know what the fees were based on, what the current fees are based on. But with wastewater, you don't have a treatment plant. So, kind of outsource that to regional wastewater provider and pay for it through your wastewater rates, I presume. So you would expect that the wastewater fee would be lower. You just have less capital investment. You've only got lines. You don't have the treatment plant. So anyway, I mean, all of these fees are going up quite a bit, but with the exception of the wastewater fee for a single-family unit, would actually go down. But other than that, which you would expect for fees that are mostly haven't been updated over 20 years. All right, let's go to the next slide. Utility fee considerations. So one consideration is you don't have a study supporting your current fees. So, if your current utility fees get challenged, you don't know what they're based on. Or, it's hard to say, well, they're proportional to the impact, they're based on actual costs or whatever, because you don't really have a basis. Now, they're pretty low, so chance of anybody ever filing suit might be small, but it is, potential concern when you have a fee that functions like an impact fee, and there's case law out there that when you're charging new development, you kind of subject to, you can do anything you want with, well, not anything. But, I mean, user fees are much more forgiving, the legal standards around user fees. Everybody's paying a user fee. They're getting something for what they're paying, but impact fees are charges on new development only, and they're subject to a stricter level of scrutiny. Well, obviously they haven't changed in 22 years, so it's probably time to do something with them. And they appear to significantly undercharge non-residential uses. Now there's other bases besides meter capacity for utility fees. I mean, you could do an analysis of usage. Rather than look at capacity, look at average or peak usage for different users, for different meter sizes. Do that kind of analysis, which may show some difference between, people may be getting very large meters and not using much of the capacity, particularly if the meter is really cheap. But it does at least, using meter capacity is really kind of the standard, the best practice in the business. We've been doing these fees for a long time and have found that most water and wastewater impact fees are based on the capacity of the water meter. And of course, you can update it whatever percentage you want, but you really should keep the fees proportional to impact. So that you shouldn't be saying, well, the smallest one will charge, 100%, and then we'll charge a much lower percentage for the larger ones. All right, let's go to the next. So this is the final slide, just implementation options, and they're pretty straightforward. You can adopt these fees at anything less than 100%, but once again, that should apply evenly to all categories, whether it's land use type or meter size, so that it retains the proportionality to the impact of the development of the new customer. And you can also phase in an increase or combine those two, say, well, we'll go up to 50%, but we'll do it, we'll start at 20, then we'll go to 30, or, over a certain number of years. So there's all kinds of options for how you implement the study. So that pretty well wraps it up. So I'll turn it over to you guys for any questions. I'll be standing by and to listen to wait for questions and listen for your listen to your discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. Does anybody from the board have any questions?
Alderman No here.
Yes, sir, Alderman No.
Mr. Mullen, is that correct?
Yes.
Have you came across in your line of work, have you came across many cities that has not had an impact fee changed in over 20 years?
It's pretty unusual. It's not, certainly not unheard of. I've got clients in Florida who, you know, tend to update their fees pretty regularly, but I know, I think Broward County, very large county in Florida, has not updated their fees in I don't know how many years. It's been a long, long time. So, but yeah, it's not common.
You say that some cities increase their impact fees regularly. What would you consider regularly?
Well, typically, you know, studies are updated. I would say generally every 5 years. I mean, there's a lot of communities that say we're going to update them every 3, but it's a lot to do. Some kind of a growing number index their fees, where they just, you know, if you're going to go 5 or more years between an update, you might want to index the fees for inflation, so the next time you go to update it, it's not necessarily a huge jump.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions?
Alderman Coates, Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to your slide number 7 on the updated non-utility impact fees. Just interested to know the ratio between the roads, parks, police, and fire. Walk us through that, if you would, please.
The ratio between those three, the 4 types
Yeah.
of fees?
Yeah, I just wanted to go, so single family detached, you know, just run through that top line so it corresponds with the rest of the line. Just run through that a little bit, if you would.
I'm not sure what you're asking here. You know, you're not talking about the percentage of each. Obviously, the road fees are the big one, and followed by parks and police, and then fire's quite small, which is also very obvious from the chart. So I don't think that's what you're getting at. So I'm not quite sure what you're.
Just coming with the percentages for roads, parks, and police and fire. What's the percentage difference for each one?
Oh, you mean from the current fees?
Correct.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, yeah. Table 3 has the absolute numbers, but it doesn't have the percentages. So let me see if I can get that for you. I don't know. And are you looking for single family or?
Yeah, if you just use single family as an example, obviously roads is a greater percentage. Let's run through the sequence for that road. And rough percentage is okay, but just get us where we need to be.
Yeah. Let me pull this up. Okay, so for single-family detached, the road fee is going up 163%. Parks is going up 107%, so it's just doubling, basically. Fire is going up 389%, so quadrupling, basically. And, well, no, these percentages actually are all from the 1998 or 2004 study, not from the, these are not the percentages from the current fees. I can do that for you real quick here. Is it ready for this question? Compared to your current fees, roads is 5 times greater, so that would be 5 times. So quintupling, I guess, and then parks is quadrupling, and fire is also quadrupling.
Alderman Coates, if you look at page 23 of the actual study, you will see the percentage of change between the 2020 study and the 1998 study.
Page 23 of the PDF or 23 of the summary?
This would be page 23 of the City of Laverne, Tennessee impact fee update, the full report, not just the presentation portion. Glenn, do you have that report loaded on here?
Yeah, actually it should be.
If you could go to that on the screen. Alderman Coates, I don't know if you've got the screen pulled up, but Glenn's going to go to that.
Well, yeah, those were the percentages. Well, that was the percentage in that table 21 that shows road fees, and so the 163% is the figure I cited for the percent change from the previous study, not from your adopted fee, which is only half. For single family, it's only half of that. So it's basically, a little more than doubling. Well, more than doubling. It's 2.5 times what the 2.6 times what the study showed last time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Coates. Does anybody else have any other questions?
I've just got a quick question, just out of curiosity.
Yes, sir.
This is Alderman Jones, by the way. The page 8 of your presentation, was that just an oversight for Smyrna's Police Department?
Well, I mean, back in 1999 when we did that study, they didn't ask for a police fee.
Okay.
Calculation, so they just weren't interested in doing it at that time.
Okay.
Thank you, Alderman Jones. Any other questions?
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen, for your work on this. If anyone has any other questions, we will have a discussion on this at our workshop meeting at the end of the month. and proceed from there. Does anyone have any other questions? If not, I call this meeting adjourned.